And good morning, afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Hallowtheatre. As always, I am Dan Tartaglione, better known as D Tartag1. Joining me today, I was going to say this evening, but it's obviously not evening, is the one and only Mr. Mike Kessling. How you doing, Mike? Well, thank you. That's three happies. And he's not on the call, but he's here in audio and in spirit. Uh, Chris Hall, Joker King, is with us as well. How are you doing, sir? Uh, so yeah, we got a lot to talk about. Like this week has been kind of busy. Like we have had a lot of streams in terms of Star Wars games. The OCS playoffs are currently going on, and right now, I mean, we're down to the last game this week. We've had some pretty exciting games so far this week. We have one of the top 16 with us in Chris Hall. So why don't we start with the OCS playoffs today? Uh, Looking back at the games that we've played, we had Paul Meyer. You know what? I'm going to bring up the bracket really quick, just so everybody can sees the current bracket. Well, that's not right. That's the Steeler game that I'm currently watching. So if you look at the current bracket, Paul Myers advanced over Chris Werfs. Uh, Bastion and Joe have yet to play. Matthew Harrison Trainer beat Brad Kipple. The 4 seed Timo Dusel went down to Chris Hall. Justin Desai beat Connor Britton, and Drew Lichtenstein beat Gavin Ortland. And then Charlie advances over Tom, and Justin Branch, to put this nicely, just demolished B. Fred. So, looking back at those games, like what were some of the games that really stuck out with you guys? Let's start with the guy who's in the top 16, Chris. What were some of the games that really stuck out besides your game? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like, don't get me wrong. Like that B. Fred versus Justin Branch game was just insane. 1 second. 1 second, everybody. Let me just. Okay. What were you saying? Sorry, Chris. You were saying about like the B. Fred versus Justin Branch game.
I was impressed at how quickly Justin was able to just be Fred because I think I'd anticipated that being a back and forth kind of game, and it didn't
Mm-hmm.
work out that way. It was
Yeah, like it was really funny because like Mike and I were just talking about this. It seemed like Justin had his dream hand in that game.
yeah, I would agree. It seemed like everything that could have gone right for Justin certainly did, and everything that could have gone wrong for B Fred went badly as well.
Yeah. And Mike, what were your like thinking about that game? What was your thoughts on that game in particular as well? Besides the fact that Justin just had the nuts.
We were not shocked to see Hitco actually, and Bfred was very comfortable with ISB going into that game. I was unfortunately in the middle of a work meeting, so I was sort of half watching on one monitor while working. And as soon as the meeting wrapped up, the game ended like shortly thereafter. So I was texting with Greg actually to be like, did that just happen? Like did I just see what I think I just saw? And he was in the same boat. So it was mostly just disappointing. I think had Brian been in maybe a little bit of a better headspace, he probably could have played that out and maybe gotten it down to somewhere in the 20s and
Mm-hmm.
rolled the dice in the next game. But he was just like, this is too much, and decided, you know what, this isn't my game. This isn't my day. I'm gonna take the rest of the day. He told me he went got some food and watched Dune, and he's in a better headspace now, having gotten through it. And then I haven't gotten to see a ton of the other top 60 games. I was on the call for Drew Gavin the other night, and that went about as perfectly as it could have from our point of view, just knowing that Drew's one of my best friends and on our team. And Gavin plays a lot of the same decks, so Drew kind of sold out for Gavin's range and adapted both of his decks for that matchup. So I'm really interested to see. He's kind of going into the opposite here against MHT, like somebody who's very wide open. And then, as Chris said, the match I'm most excited about is Bastion Joe. So I had no meetings yesterday or Friday afternoon. I was stoked to spend the afternoon watching that. And unfortunately, Bastion came ill, and so they had to move to tomorrow. So looking forward to that. I'm hoping to still be able to watch.
Yeah, I know a lot of people are looking forward to that Joe and Bastion matchup, but I mean, besides that one, like, there was a lot of good matchups. Like, I for one was really excited about the Timo Dussel and the Chris Hall match. I have been not begging but pushing for Timo to pick Joker King in the in his match if it would allow for that. Like, I know that Paul Myers, Bastion, and Matthew Harrison Trainer were all in front of Timo for picking, and it just so worked that Chris Hall ended up, being there, and Timo picked him. I really wanted to see that match, and I mean that one to me just seemed like it was a really good match. Like, there was a lot of mind games going into that match. I felt like, being that Chris is like one of the players who plays court, just every time you see him on Gep, he's playing court. Like, you hardly ever see him play a light side at this point. And he doesn't feel like court. Like, he plays map. And that's like the other deck he likes to play. So, Chris, like, give me some thought process on that. Why did you not play court, and why'd you go with map?
Yeah, so I think I had some interviews around the GMPC. I think I said I don't really like playing court in a match play situation. I like it in OCS qualifier months where people don't know who they're going to have as their opponent. But when they can tech for it, really don't like playing court. So if I can get him to put one or two anti-court cards in and then play something completely different, that's a win, as far as I'm concerned. So I did see at least one anti-court card in there, so I think that part worked.
Yeah, I think it was what you will take me to Jabba now. Like, come on,
not a card ability in our game.
Yeah, and for light side again, you play OA here and there, but what made you go with the deck that you went with?
Yeah, so when I was talking with my team about his dark side decks, I think the three that we thought were good possibilities were CCT, Watto, and Deal. So I tried to think of what deck I could play would be well matched up against those, especially if I put in tech cards for them. I was fortunate that three decks is what he chose. I didn't have a great start, but I was able to overcome it in the long run.
Yeah, and you played Qui-Gon Communing, and he played Watto. Like, of all the decks he played, he went with Watto.
Yeah, I know that T likes Watto, which is certainly something that we don't see very often in the meta right now. I thought about Hyperdrive as a possibility, which would presumably, but that would leave me a little bit weaker against the other two options. So I felt my meeting was a little more balanced.
Okay, and looking back, like, I know the Watto game was really close. You ended up winning by, what was it, 8?
I think 4. Really tight.
Yeah, it was something really, really close, and then everything came down to that map versus his. I can't remember what he played now.
He played Communing also.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. And everything went down to that game. Like, and it just seemed like towards the end, I don't know, like what happened at the very end, but yeah, like you were able to hang on. Like I know you had what was it? Limited resources on your Kylo effect. Like I know he tried battling, tried to hit Kylo, wasn't able to, and then you had limited resources, and at the end, like you were able to drain him down to the point where he either lost the limited resources or lost to the drain.
Yeah, exactly. So I definitely had some key misplays in that game, but once we were both fairly even and I got limited resources stacked on my Kylo effect, I felt like I had the game
Mm-hmm.
in hand because he was either going to have to draw up to a point where he couldn't do anything else, or he would lose for the limited resources. So I was happy that worked out.
Okay. So let's talk about some of the other games that are going on. So we saw Paul. The first game was Paul Myers versus Chris Werfs. That one again, it was the first round. Paul went with Hitco, and Werfs went with TTO. Now that's a really grindy, not a lot of action type of a game. And I think Paul won it by, it was like a really close game too. Like I want to say about 8 or so cards. Paul won it by.
That sounds right. So it's somewhere in that ballpark. I think it was single digits. And then in the next round, in game two, Werfs played Watch Your Step, as I recall.
Yeah, and Paul played ISB.
And I think Watch Your Step just maybe, I mean, that is one of Werf's favorite decks, but maybe not the best call in that situation. Knowing
Yeah.
you need a win potentially in the low teens, Watch Your Step just isn't the best position right now, I would say. Especially knowing the decks that Paul likes to play, it would not have been one of my choices.
I think Werfs was tech to beat his Dark Deal deck, the one where he runs like all those walkers and everything. I know that there's like the free ride combo and everything, but yeah, I agree 100%. Like he had to win, but at the same time he had to retrieve a lot. So I mean, I kind of like the idea of the Watcher Step. Maybe he could have went with something a little bit different, being that Paul does like ISB and Dark Deal, but. And then in the second round, we end up seeing as well. The next game that I'm going to talk about is the Connor Britton versus Justin Desai. That game was kind of interesting. So the first game, it was Justin was played Qui-Gon Communing, and Connor played the TTO deck. Like, were either of you surprised that Connor played that TTO deck?
I think Connor played Deal.
Not the Deal deck. That's what I meant.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was an interesting choice. I thought he played okay in that game. He made some mistakes kind of towards the end. Desai came aggressive to best spin early. I thought was really a key early turning point in the game.
Yeah, it was funny because like I was talking to Justin last night a little bit about this, and neither of us supposed to play those things. It was OA. Okay, OA versus Deal. I'm sorry, Justin. I'm trying to run things and fix the mics and everything at the same time, and it's a little bit. But yeah, like I was talking to Justin about this a little bit last night, and he was saying that each of them was on each other's planets. Like Connor invaded Bespin, and Justin went to Jakku. It was kind of interesting to me to see. I was not expecting Connor to play the Dark Deal deck at all. Like he loves like Hoth walkers, and I would have pegged him maybe for that.
I think it would have been an interesting matchup. I think that I probably like his Hoth walkers a little bit more than what ended up happening, but I think OA is still pretty advantaged against Hoth walkers as well, since it can reduce that damage from landing.
I liked the call of OA from Justin. I mean, if they're not playing map, Old Allies is very well positioned against a lot of the dark side range. And if you have a game plan for map, I mean, you can at least potentially keep it close. but it is very much not what you want to see. But I think if you're saying, okay, I'm not anticipating that deck, Old Ally is a great call, especially for Justin has a lot of experience with that deck.
Yeah. Yeah, I know he played it at Nationals. He did rather well with it. And then for his dark side, he ended up playing Bring It Before Me, a deck that he played at Nationals. He felt comfortable with. And he was in this last night when we did the stream and everything. He wants to get back to battling and being aggressive when he plays. And Connor played Quiet Mining Colony. Like, it's a deck that I didn't think Connor would play like Quiet Mining Colony. He seems like a no idea type of player. Like, that's his bread and butter. And the fact that he went with Quiet Mining Colony really surprised me.
Yeah, I mean,
I probably picked a deck. Go ahead.
Oh, you can go. I was just gonna say, I think it's like one of those decks that QMC is fairly well positioned right now. It also has the potential to win by a decent amount.
Mm-hmm.
So there's like lots of those calculations in match play too. But yeah, I'm interested to hear what you think, Chris.
Yeah, I think he wanted a deck that had some retrieval options, which certainly QMC does. I think that again, Justin picked a really good counter to that, in my opinion, with being able to just overwhelm with early battles.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of put Connor in a tough spot for his early setup, and he never really did get set up, in my opinion.
And again, if you go back and watch the stream, again, it was a replay link from Justin, and you were able to see what he had in his hand. His hand was just it was really good. Like, he had the first turn, he had a Maul's ship, he had the Force Push, he had a Vader and a Vani, so that way he was able to get down to the site, pull the Vader's castle site, but more importantly, he had the Blast Door controls. So he was able to stop like any rebel barriers that could have that Connor could have used to stop Justin from coming down. And then every time he drew a card, it was like just more fuel to fuel himself. Like, he drew into Lord Sidious. He was able to get he used the Force Push for the Isard, but then he, like I said, he drew into Lord Maul. And like, how do you stop something like that?
I didn't get to watch the game, but it sounds like it went about as well as it could have for Justin.
Yeah, and it didn't help that, again, Connor was down by 17 after the first game.
And then on the right side of the bracket, obviously, Bastion and Joe haven't played.
No, they haven't yet. And I know a lot of people are itching to see that one. So, and then the last match that we haven't touched upon was the Matthew Harrison trainer versus the Brad Kipple match. I don't remember anything from that match. Like, I know MHT advanced, but I think it was what? I think MHT played CCT.
I believe I know on the other side, I think he played QMC and Brad played ISB. I'm not sure about the other side.
Sounds right. CCT versus, I want to say Diplo.
That's what Justin's saying in the chat.
Yeah, I want to say, it was Brad is a Diplo player. Like, he's been playing it a lot recently. That makes it 100% set, 100% accurate. But yeah, I mean, Diplo versus CCT, I think it's a match that can go either way. It really depends on if the Diplo player can get the Menace Phase out really quick. Like, I like Court in that match better than CCT, though, just because Court has better space. But what do you say, Joker King? Again, being that you're the resident Court player.
Well, certainly I prefer Court over CCT in that matchup. I'm pretty biased with that take. I do like the ability to get your space out quickly. I think that a variety of different Diplo builds, whether they're running the Falcon to get over or Gendrilla, I think you have some options for going after them in space early, which means they probably have to stack their starships a little bit more, which gives you more time to set up on the ground. So I think you have a lot more ways to inflict early damage, in my opinion, with Court and make the game shorter. I think CCT makes it a grind, almost definitely.
And then QMC versus ISB, I mean, that right there tells me that, like, the QMC, I mean, you're not going to, as the ISB player, you're really not going to be able to mitigate any of those drain bonuses, especially if they're playing like once they're on the 7 side. So you don't get that ability to say, oh, make all your opponent's drains -1 and everything. I mean, depending on the ISB, you could take over the system, but it's really hard.
Yeah, and even if you do end up taking over the system, once they've flipped, they're going to be able to do so much more damage and retrieval, even without the system. If they have rows and BB-8 or different things stacked up, if it's watering hole, you get through a lot of damage. We play tested that matchup, I don't know, a handful of times before Worlds, and if ISB has a bright center to the universe, it's potentially winnable. If they don't, it's very, very hard.
And according to Justin in the chat, there was a landing claw that was the big game changer.
Right. The landing claw was huge. Another really interesting thing for the people that were observing the game was using Rescue in the Clouds to cancel a dark side destiny for Wookiee Strangle, which created a buzz about, is this legal, is this not? Which I think the better question is, should it be legal, not whether it is. But yeah, I thought there was some interesting things from MH.
It's implied. Come on. Everybody knows it's implied.
I saw there was quite the big hullabaloo and Slack about that.
Yeah, I know there was a bunch of the meme channel blew up with that for a little bit. Like, I wasn't watching the game. I forget where I was, but I mean, I just saw and heard it, and I was just like, this is insane.
Should we talk about the round of 8?
Yeah, let's talk about the round of 8. Let's start with the Paul Myers versus Justin Branch match. That one, to me, I mean, it's going to be interesting because, like, Paul likes what he likes, and Paul likes to play certain decks. Like, he likes ISB, he likes Tadigawan, he likes Diplo. So, do you put him on one of those? Or, again, like Justin, he likes OA. He was one of the few only OA players to play OA at Worlds last year when it was online. Do you see them playing that, or do you see, like, Hitco? Because both these players played Hitco, I believe.
I think if I had to bet, Paul will play one of the decks that he plays most often. So, like a Hitco, maybe a Diplo, but I would lean probably more of a mains type light side. And for Dark, I think the ones you listed plus an ISB are viable. Silver Glen, I think, has a broader range and works with, he's got more folks that he talks with, and it's like working on decks with. So I would assume just Silver, I really think he could bring almost anything, but it wouldn't shock me to see him play map. And potentially on light side, I wouldn't be surprised if he throws a curveball and plays something unexpected, but who knows what that would be.
Yeah, I think that Paul has his range of decks that he plays exceptionally well. I would agree that I think Justin can play a variety of different decks and do quite well with them. I think it could be quite the interesting match.
Okay. And then, well, let's talk about this one a little bit more because it's actually going to be a swing and a miss question. Let's go straight to the Chris Hull versus Justin Desai match. Now, again, Justin and I streamed his match last night. Chris, you were there watching it, and you even asked him, like, what is he going to play in the second round? And Justin just was like, I'm going to play decks that I like. I'm going to play decks where I can go and fight and everything. I'm going to be aggressive. How does that make you feel?
It makes me feel terrified. Oh my goodness, I don't know what I could possibly do.
Well, are you going to bring out your court?
Yeah, it's a possibility, right? It's always one that's there. I think I'll have to talk with my team and see kind of what they feel like are maybe some good decks to match up a variety of different decks, because we know that Justin can bring out any deck and play it very well.
Okay. And then we have, it's either going to be Bastion or Joe facing Charlie. Mike, you're a teammate of Charlie. How do you feel about that match? Like if he either faces Bastion or he faces Joe. Like he's got to face a 2-time world champ to move on.
Well, yeah, 2 or 3 time, depending
Yeah.
on. Um, Charlie actually said he feels more comfortable preparing for the winner of that match than he did for Tom, just because Tom plays more off the wall
Yeah.
decks. So I think Charlie's been playing so well over the last 6 to 8 months. I don't think he's particularly worried about who he's placing. I think it's going to be more him settling on which decks he wants to play. I know. When I asked him about if he was ready for Tom, he was like, sort of. And then their match unfortunately didn't end up happening. But I anticipate that he's going to feel like he doesn't have to warp his deck or his deck choice as much for this matchup. The biggest thing is going to be that he has to play super, super well to have a chance against Joe or Bastion. So as long as I think our team's outlook is going to be like, play something you're comfortable with and play tight. Like as long as he brings something solid, he has a chance.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So before we get into swing and a miss, let's just again, right now, like I said, currently the OCS playoffs are going on. Again, you can check out the bracket. It's on the link is on the forums. The bracket contest is currently going on as well. Again, in the second round, it's going to be Paul Myers versus Justin Branch, Bastion Winklehouse or Joe Olson against Charlie Arlinson. We talked about a little bit about that one, and then we got MHT Matthew Harrison Trainer versus Drew. We're going to talk about that in a couple of minutes, Justin, because like I said, we have a swing and a miss question for that, and then the last one is going to be Chris Hall versus Justin Desai, and then checking on the prediction leaderboard. The current leader is Chris Hall. So, Chris, you're currently leading the predictions. So how does that make you feel?
Yeah, I missed on myself. I should have bet on myself to win the team event.
Yeah. Always bet on yourself. And then for those who are not playing in the OCS or in the upcoming Outrider Cup, the Jawa Cup is about to start in about 15 days. So it's going to be a 6-game strength of schedule tournament. And the Jawa format, again, it's going to run for 6 weeks with a top 8. And if you want to check out the prize support, got some good prizes coming out for this one. First is going to get a white border dark side premier white border uncut sheet, and then second place is going to get a sealed EPP Luke pack, and then a lot of booster packs, poker chips, and foil slips. And then if you want to check out the ban list, again, the ban lists are Carbon Chamber Contesting, I Want That Map, Bring It Before Me, ISB, Shadow Collective. And then for light side, it is Master Qui-Gon, Jin, Old Friend, Master Yoda, Like My Father Before Me, Yavin 4 Ops, and Old Allies. So, what do you guys think about the ban list for the Jawa Cup? And Mike, are you going to be playing?
I haven't signed up yet. I am debating it. I think I likely will sign up.
I mean, it's
the
free.
6 games, it's free. The 6 games, I like the fact that you have time to schedule them. So it's like, hopefully should be relatively easy to get through the tournament. But overall, yeah, I think Jawa is great. So I have not played it a ton. We have a one Jawa channel in our new allies Slack. And it will probably get a lot more love in the coming weeks. But yeah, I'm anticipating that a decent chunk of our team will end up playing.
What decks do you think? What decks are you looking at playing? Like if you play.
Well, so if you look at CCT map, Bring It Before Me, ISB, Shadow Collective off the top for Darkside. So that immediately to me points towards Hunt Down potentially being strong, Court, and then maybe something like a bit different. We could see more of the steel deck. I would anticipate Lightside will adjust some for that. If I had to guess, if I was just going in, are you allowed to change decks between games, or is it you're locked in for the event?
I believe you're allowed to
Pretty sure you can change.
Yeah.
Okay. So then I don't know. I mean, I would think Court would probably be something I'd be comfortable bringing to the table just from the off the cuff, like without much thinking about it, that'd probably be the first thing. But Hunt Down seems decent too. And then for light side, obviously the two good communings are off the table. Basically, Hitko's off the table with Like My Father Before Me. Yops an old ally. So I would see QMC we were just talking about that jumps out as a potential throne room. Who knows? Yeah, there could be very different. Light side's going to be kind of wide open. It looks like.
Yeah, like I mean, there's Watch Your Step, no idea. There are decks like that. I mean, but yeah, the big ones for me are light side mains takes a huge hit. So being that you can't really play Hiko, you can't really play the two big community decks. So Court just seems like it's the deck for dark side, like right off the top. So, but I mean, there's a lot of other options. I mean, Kyle Kruger's Set Your Course for Alderaan deck is pretty good. So we'll see. It's going to be fun. I kind of like Jawa too. I mean, my biggest issue is they took away like my two light side decks and my two dark side decks. So I'm just like, well, crap. What am I going to play?
Yeah, and you mentioned decks that light side's like no idea that I think are definitely solid. Just not something I don't particularly enjoy playing that deck all that much. So I'd be surprised if I loaded it up. But it'll be interesting to see which direction people go. Because to your point about Court being sort of the obvious one of the best dark sides, well then light side's going to follow suit and play. You might end up seeing a decent amount of some Court hate.
Yeah.
The farm polar in and of itself is something you don't want to see, and that's been fairly prevalent lately. But then also potential for guts and different things that Court also doesn't want to see. So it'll be an interesting tournament.
Okay. So I think it's that time we get into some swing and a miss. I got 4 questions for you guys, as well as the audience. So let's start off with, and it's all based around the OCS playoffs. So our first question of the day is going to be Chris Hall winning over Timo Dussel will be the only upset we see in the OCS playoffs. My reasoning for an upset is someone who is the lower seed beating the higher seed. So let's. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm gonna have to go miss because I'm gonna predict that Drew upsets MHT in the next round.
Chris, you gonna believe in yourself this round?
So for this to be a hit, Paul would have to defeat Bastion in the finals, and I see some upsets preventing that from happening, especially on the left side of the bracket. I think that Justin obviously has a very good chance at advancing. I like Joe's chances versus Bastion as well, so we might see another one just in the first round.
Okay.
Yeah, the nature of the seeding actually makes that kind of like if Joe beats Bastion, then he is technically upsetting Charlie, even though he is the reigning two-time world champion.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know. Like I also I think the biggest one is like the next one that I can see is besides the Bastion Joe matchup is Drew over MHT. Like Drew is one of those players. I think if he plays well, he has the potential to take down anybody. So I think Drew, and being that he's got a team of 9 million people, he can utilize his resources to take down MHT.
Yep, the hive mind will be strong at work for both Charlie and Drew in the coming week.
That's okay. So on to question number 2. Question number 2 is Matthew Harrison Trainer versus Drew Lichtenstein will be the most exciting match of the second round. Start off with Chris.
Well, I would hope that my match is the most exciting of the second round. I would hope that that is not a snoozer, so I will say a miss.
Okay, Mike?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to, in the spirit of repping my boy, I'm going to say that it's a hit for sure. I anticipate that will be a good match regardless. Drew and Matthew, MHT, solid players, both have a wide range of decks. So I anticipate that'll be a good match. But honestly, looking at the potential top 8, I'm excited for all 4 of these games. So while I think I'm gonna back my boy Drew as having the most exciting, and I could see any of these really ending up being great matches.
I'm going to go with a hit for this one myself. And the biggest reason is because of the range of the players. Like looking at Drew and MHT, both of them can play almost play any deck. And I'm not saying that like Paul Myers and Justin Branch can't. I'm not saying Bastion Joe and Charlie can't, and obviously I'm not saying Justin and Chris can't. What I'm saying is, I feel like these two will play, and it could be it can be really really close. So and being that they can play almost any deck, I think that given that as well as some of the mind games between the two teams, because MHT has a good team behind him, I like this match in particular.
Yeah, it's going to be must see TV. I'm hoping I'll be on the call again, so look forward to streaming that one.
Okay, on to question number 3. He is the chosen one. Will continue to see play in round 2. I'll start off with this one. I think this is. I'm gonna go with a miss. Like, I know Justin and Paul both like he is the Hitco. I just don't think that either of them are gonna play it, being that both of them know that both of them like it. Like, I think both of them will pivot to something else, but we'll see.
I think I'm going to take the opposite line and say it's a hit. I expect actually at least one. I think we will see in that match that there will be a Hitco played. So just there alone, I'm going to bet on it's a hit.
Okay.
I think there will be exactly one game of Hitco in round 2. So I think that's probably a hit. It continues to see some play.
Okay. And then for our last question for Swing and a Miss, who you got, Bastion or Joe? Chris?
I'll start on this one. I picked Joe in the pick for the bracket, and I have no reason to change my prediction.
I'm going to find my prediction. I believe I took Bastion, and I'm going to stick with my prediction. I will. It's hard to pick against Bastion or Joe ever, but I think in particular Bastion's inability to come to Worlds has probably ignited a fire in him to where he specifically called out Joe, picked Joe as his opponent here. So I think he's got a little chip on his shoulder, something to prove. So I wouldn't want to have to face Bastion in a situation like that. So my money's on Bastion.
Yeah, I picked Bastion to go all the way, and just for the fact is, like you said it, he didn't go to Worlds. He called out Joe and Bastion. I know he did not enjoy losing the Outrider Cup to Team America. So that right there is just fueling his fire. And like you said it, he picked Joe. So yeah, you got to go. I'm going with Bastion.
It's hard for me to ever pick against Bastion, so I'm going with him. I will say he's the only player that I've consistently, every time I've played against him, when the game ends, I'm like, he plays so well. I'm never as impressed with other people's play as I have ever been with Bastion. So to me, he's the greatest. I'm picking him.
I don't know if he's the greatest. I mean, he's one of them.
His resume speaks for itself to me in both eras of the game.
That's fair. Okay, so that's all we got for Swing and a Miss. We don't got a deck building challenge for October. Took the month off for Worlds and everything. For November, we're going to have a good one. I will announce it on Wednesday when we get back to our normal schedule and everything, so be on the lookout for those. Also, I know if you're waiting for any of the prizes that I have said to give out, life has been a little hectic over the last few months. So once things are slowly settling down, so your prizes will be sent out as soon as I can get them out to you. Again, I apologize to that for everybody. So again, like I said, I'm really hoping to get those out here as soon as I can. Okay. So, don't got a lore challenge this week. We got the objective challenge. Are you ready, Mr. Chris?
Yep.
Okay. So, again, with the objective challenge, I'm going to be giving you the 0 side of the objective. You have to give me the 7 side.
Have to be exact.
You have to be exact.
Oh man, that might be challenging.
Okay, are you ready?
Sure.
Your lore challenge is On the Verge of Greatness.
Oh, I should be good at this one since I was improving. I believe that it is taking control of the weapon.
The 7th side is taking control of the weapon, so you won.
Excellent. Wow, that's a relief. I would have been ashamed to face Adam otherwise.
I don't know, like it's a new objective. Nobody's really played it yet. Wanted to give you something different. Okay, just for fun, what is this, the 7th side of court?
Is I shall enjoy watching you die.
Okay, I was gonna say like
Although I don't know if I've ever.
I was gonna say
actually in a game, so I might be wrong on that.
Well, let us check really quick because I actually thought about giving you court just for that reason because you don't see the 7th side of it. But you are correct. It is I shall enjoy watching you die. But okay, everyone. That's all. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I'm surprised to hear you've never flipped your court, Chris. I have inadvertently or flipped it a few times with hidden weapons, multiple times in my life.
I definitely have flipped it before. I think most commonly if I'm playing against There Is Good in Him and Mara captures Luke, and then that kind of stuff sometimes happens, but it's very rare.
Yes, it is rare, and it's never fun. Anytime it happens, it's like, oh, I didn't want that to happen.
Right.
But okay, everyone, that's all we've got for today. Again, Hallowtheatre will be back on Wednesday at our normal time of 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. Again, I want to thank Mike and Chris for giving up some time on their Sundays to join us. So until Wednesday, everybody take care. Have a good weekend. And yeah, I'll see everybody then. Tomorrow, again, Joe and Bastion will be playing. Right now, they're scheduled for 1 p.m. Eastern, I believe. I think it's 10 a.m. Pacific. So I think I'm going to be on the call. So we'll have both those. I believe they're going to be playing both games, and both those games will be on the PC channel. So make sure you check those out. Again, until tomorrow, take care, and I'll see everybody later.
Peace.